Hey guys, welcome to this new video. So before we jump into the system, we're picking up a key for the door in order to open a specific door. I'm gonna just explain you guys a little bit of what we're gonna cover in the next video, because the next video is gonna be a little bit more advanced already, or like, yeah, a lot of things that I won't be able to cover in this video. But I'm gonna cover in this video the principle, so you guys can follow around on the next video, because the next video I think is gonna be in 2 parts, and that's gonna be a tutorial inside this tutorial. So that's gonna be a tutorial I'm gonna make for other people as well. They are already more advanced, just like a tutorial for door based on tag. So let's jump into it. So I'm gonna try to help you guys with this video to be able to more like follow the next one. So in the next one I'm gonna talk about casting. So I'm gonna explain you guys what casting is and in a few words. So if I say destroy cube, for example, I want a cube. I could take a sphere to change a little bit, but it doesn't matter. I'm always using cubes. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check if the player has I don't know, a special power, he can destroy this cube. So to do that, I'm gonna change the texture. So to change the texture of a mesh, you can go here, and I'm gonna say, okay, let's have like a little brick wall stuff. And so as you can see, when I change here, it doesn't change here, because here it's the main object. And remember, when we drag something to the scene, it has its own properties here. So if I will change here the material and say, yeah, I want some stone. So now when I'm gonna drag one, and it automatically changed to this one. Up. And now if I raise it, just go to nothing, and I can still change the material of the other one. And now in this, if I change it again to clay new, again it changed to all of them. So just keep in mind, if you have like multiple assets of the same root into your scene, when you do change something here, that's gonna change for all of them. So if you wanted to have different texture, then you have to set up like these guys again. Anyway, so just keeping this one here. So what we want to do is to check if our player has a special power or not to be able to destroy this cube. So same as before, we're gonna add a collision box. So the player doesn't need to actually, so I press R. So see, there's another stuff, like when you go here, and I can press like W-E-R, I can change, even though it's selected. It's something dumb, and I don't know why. You have to press on one of them, and then I can change scale or whatever I want. So again, I'm doing this little cube, this collision, collision box. It's just so the player doesn't have to touch literally the cube to be able to interact with it. This is a way with class settings that objects can interact with each other. I'm gonna cover this later. So same as before, we have our collision box. So we're gonna say event actor begin overlap. And that's when it becomes a bit tricky with the casting. So we're gonna open the blueprint. So all of this stuff that I'm teaching you guys, that's like the basics, but then it can be applied for a lot of different things. So when you understand the basics, then you start to think, oh yeah, I can use this one, for example, for the door, for example. Oh, I can use this one for an elevator, or like for something else. And then after you come across an issue, and then you'll look for another tutorial and say like, oh, well, I want to press my button, and then it's called the lift, and then like, but only if I have a key. So you start to combine all of the information you learned, and then that's how everything start to build up. So to do so, I'm gonna create a new variable on my character, and I'm gonna call it super power. Okay. And at the beginning, super power is off because our character doesn't have any power. So I'm gonna use a key. So I'm gonna use P for power. So when I press P, see, like it's like the little event for when the P is pressed and released. And when I'm gonna press P, I'm gonna call the superpower of my hero. So it's really easy to do it. We could have placed something into the world, and you have actually to pick it up first. We're gonna do that actually. That's gonna be way more interesting. So we're gonna do. So we have our destroying cube, and we're gonna create another one that we're gonna say power, or superpower, or whatever. Here you go. And this time I'm gonna use a sphere and say that's the power. Same as before, I'm gonna use a collision box, or I can use a sphere collision for this one. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna, same as before, I click on this and then I can change the scale. I'm gonna change to something a little bit more sympathetic. Yeah, little explosion, little thing. So now we created our variable superpower. All right. So that's when we can compile. So the variable will be seen in other object. So the casting is something that's how blueprints can communicate with each other. And what is easy about character, it's because you can always call get player character, and you can always call this to cast something from the character. It doesn't really make sense, I guess, now, but cast to first person character because it's the first person character. And now when I have this set up, and delete these, I can actually drag out everything that's inside my character blueprint, variables, or custom event, or event, anything, by dragging this guy. Now that I have my variable set up, which is power something, I can get superpower, I can set superpower. So in this case, we want to set it because we want to say like, hey, well, now you have superpower. Remember, you have to fire up. And because now that we set it up, we want to destroy this little power-up. All right, so we can just say, hey, well, destroy it. Destroy actor. Ooh. And it's self. So it's destroying the whole actor. Or we could have, for example, if we wanted, you can, because this is destroy actor, so you go destroy and destroy component. Because maybe we just want to destroy the little power-up, but not the actor itself. Because maybe we have a text below it saying like superpower, and I don't know why I feel like my resolution is terrible. Anyway, I'm gonna copy this, F2 to take the text, and on the here say superpower. And so that's why maybe we don't want to destroy the entire actor, because this is gonna respawn. All right, so we can say, for example, let's do the respawn later on, just to show you guys, because otherwise I'm going like to another stuff. So we have our power up. When we pick it up, let's gonna destroy it and set our variable of our player to true. When it's to true, you realize, well, yeah, with my accent, it's like I'm saying through and true, and yeah, doesn't matter. So this destroy cube, So same as before. When we start to overlap, we want to destroy it. So destroy, if I can spell it correctly, destroy actor, boom. But before this, because otherwise straight away when I'm gonna walk into it, that's gonna destroy it, right? So we wanna check if our player is able to destroy it. So we wanna check the variable we created here, if it's true or not, if he has the power to do it. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cast to a player to actually get the value we have in this variable and check it out if it's true or not. So get player character. You can go like player pound as well. Get pound. Get player character pound. Pound is the can be an AI, a player, or like anything. And the character, it's something that already have like control associated to it. But in this case, you will see get first, cast to first person, and as you can see, both of them are working because we call like the same, right? If I compile, it's compiling, it's fine, and it's fine. So whatever suits you best. So get player tone. So now I can go and say, well, I want to check the variable. So power. I get power, and if to do a test. So if it's true, and not only if it's true, destroy actor. If it's false, we can say print. Remember, print is to print something on the screen and say get more power. There you go. And now we have our little power up here. So now when I go there, get more power because I don't have the power for it. So when I go there, chook, I pick it up. When I go here, I can destroy it. So this is a simple way to trying to understand what casting means. Now, when it becomes a little bit more tricky to explain casting, it's you can only cast from something that actually exists already. You have to define what is casting from. You can't say, for example, I want to cast something from a blueprint. For example, like power blueprint. All right. If I say, for example, a variable, say ultra power, and say, well, this guy, when the ultra power is on, for example, the first character can destroy our cubes if the superpower of the power-up is on. It doesn't really make sense, but it's just to understand that if I'm casting to power, so I'm casting to this guy, right? Because I can call anything with cast to, anything that you created, you can cast from. So you can say like, well, superpower. So get superpower, why isn't it in text? Ultra power. My bad. Ultra power, get ultra power. And say, well, if I'm missing limits as I hate this. So we can say like, well, you know, like if ultra power is on, we get an error. So because we have to plug the object into it, and to get the object, you can say, for example, oh yeah, well, that's nice because the actor, you know, like it's working well because I have an actor and that's what he's asking me to, so then it's fine. Then this is on, so it should work. So when I go there and I want to destroy it, nothing is happening, even though, see how this stuff, like, it's firing but it's failing the cast, because we have to actually say, well, this is not what we want to, and you can select something here and it doesn't change anything, right? Even though we go power blueprint, because that's itself, it doesn't work. My Unreal crashed, so I just cut the video where it made sense, and so I'm gonna continue. So I think like we need to actually say this is this guy. So how do we do that? So back to our destroying cube. I lost some of the information here, so yeah, it doesn't really matter. So we're gonna create a new variable to that, and we're gonna say like which power, and so it's an actor, so we want a type actor, because we're gonna actually say, well, up the little I, so little I means also it's public, so we can see inside the ball. So I'm gonna just show you this in a sec. So now, which power? None. So we can select an actor here, but it says like default and blah blah, so it doesn't look that great. So any variable, you can put them into a category. So we can say like which power. And the variable is called which power, so it doesn't, yeah, but it doesn't really matter. Which power, or we can say like list of power. Here we go. So now that we have this, we can actually set with this guy, we can say, well, I want to do reference to this guy here. So power blueprint. Because if this one was actually, if there was like two of them, and this one was like another kind of power, for example, then here when you go power, so you have power and power 2, which is this guy here. So that's why it's important, because that's for the cast. Because now that's this guy has been set. Now when we say, well, this is the object, see info from browser, we don't need that anymore. Kind of lost the track because it crashed and I lost a lot of things. So yeah, I'm gonna just use the event begin overlap. So now I can say like ultra power, let's say branch, if it's true, destroy actor here. So same as before, but now we have something to cast into it, and this, it's actually the actor of this one here, so the cast won't fail, because now it's we're casting to something that actually exists in the game and not inside a continent browser somewhere like lost. So this is like the main things about casting. Always think about my object needs to exist somewhere in my game. How can I make this happen? How, like, where do I get information from? And because then we can, with this system, for example, we can have this variable can also be public and say like category, kind of power, or like power is up. And so we have ultra power is up, ultra power. So this one will be off and this one will be on. So now when we have this guy, see how like this is checking the variable of this, which is power 2. So if we change it to power 1, which doesn't have ultra power on, then we can't destroy it. Alright, but if we go to power 2, then we can destroy it, because this one is actually an ultra power or whatever. It doesn't really make sense, but and we can still go and take the power of this guy to be able to remove it. Or now it's set up to this. So just to show you, so up, no ultra power for both of them, and I can go and I can take them. So I can't destroy them now because it's not, yeah. We should do an event, so split it, so a sequence. So sequence 0 will be if the player has the power, the superpower, then we can destroy, otherwise he has to get more power. But then if one of the power, and we determine which one has actually an ultra power, then we can destroy it as well. So get more power. Boom, boom. So you get the idea. So this is how we set up. I'm gonna save now because it's keep crashing. I don't know why. So this is how we set up casting. We need to have something like existing, and there's a way that's really amazing to do it as well. It's the game instance. So when we have a game instance, info, for example, this game instance is insanely useful because anything you create here, the game instance is, when you launch the game instance is launched in any level. So anything you create here, any event, like any custom event saying like get firepower or anything you want, any variable, can I get power, anything you want, you can actually call it for any object in the entire game. But before that, you have to make sure that in your project settings, game instance is set to the one you just created, game instance info. From now on, I can call anything. So if, for example, I want to add a sequence number 3 and say like we would know it, so you can actually try it, like it's easier. So I can get game instance and then cast to game instance info, which is the one I just created, sequence 3. So when we overlap, we have like something new now. And now from there, we can say like power. So we can launch the event, trigger the event, get firepower, or we can set the variable, we can get it. If, for example, we launch this one, then that's gonna trigger this one when we're gonna like overlap. And then we can say like, well, quit the game, for example, you know, like, and so, that's like quitting my game. So this is how, after, it's really easy. See how it's tricky to actually cast to something, get the information from this guy, does he have superpower, blah blah blah. We need to create something very public. There is certainly another way to do this. It's one way to do it. That's really useful if you have like different power and you want to set the variable at the beginning, like change during the game or things like that. But the game instance is definitely something really useful also for menu. When we're gonna like go into menu, you can call some widgets based on the button you click, and it's launching all the time an event. For example, launch the level or launch something like this. Anyway, that's a lot of information in this video, so I'm gonna cut it here. I hope you guys enjoy and learned a lot. Yeah, don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments, or like if there's something that you didn't really understand and you want like an extra bonus video on it, I will be happy to do it. I will see you guys in the next video.